Welcome to Casual Politics, Keith Vaz. Thank you very much for accepting my request, and I'm very grateful to you. You've been in Parliament since 1987. My first question is that how compelling was it David Cameron's statement this morning making a case for another intervention in Syria?
Well, it was a very powerful argument that the Prime Minister put forward, and he did so on the basis of a lot of advice and intelligence that was given to him. He made that very clear. He came to Parliament with a particular view. He wants us to think about it, and we now have a chance to have a good think about how we're going to take things forward.
But in what way this one was different than his statement back in 2013?
But he's got a resolution of the United Nations, which is one that is very difficult to get because the permanent members of the UN all need to support it, which they have done. He's come to Parliament and he has allowed Parliament to have a discussion about it. And we also have a situation where one of our closest allies, that is France, has had to suffer the trauma of these terrorist attacks. So there are all good, valid reasons why this has happened.
And you ask him this morning, you ask him 2 questions, and how satisfying were his replies to your questions?
Well, I've written to him again just this evening to ask him to convene the meeting that I want him to convene at the British Muslim community, so that he could explain directly to them exactly why he is taking this action, because they are the people who will suffer the biggest.
They're already suffering. Actually.
They are already suffering,
yes.
But they will suffer some more. And I think that what's important is that he should tell them why we're doing this. We are trying to deal with Daesh. We are not there for regime change reasons as we were in Iraq. The regime is going to be part of what we're doing, in a sense, because we've got the support of the Russians who support the Assad regime, as well as the Americans and the French. So the purpose is to destroy Daesh. That is why we're going in there. So it's less a bombing of Syria than a bombing of Daesh.
So why then you didn't vote for the intervention in Syria back in 2013, and this time you are determined to vote for it?
I'm not determined to vote. The Prime Minister has put his case, and we as members of Parliament have to look at that case. I think it's a very powerful case. I just need to be reassured on those 2 points. One being he needs to carry the British Muslim community with him. But also, we have been dealing in my committee with the migration crisis. I'm absolutely certain, there is no doubt in my mind, that as a result of the action we and our allies take, more people will want to flee from Syria and make their way over to Greece and Turkey and eventually into mainland Europe. This will happen because that's what happens when you have this kind of action.
But once we start bombing, it will just deteriorate the migration crisis in the Middle East.
It will, and that's why.
And more people will come to this country.
Well, they won't come to this country because we're committed to taking 20,000, and therefore he's put a cap on the numbers who can come. But more will come into the EU, and I'm not sure that the EU is ready or able to cope with such an influx. At the moment, we've always got 1 million people who've travelled over the last 2 years. What is going to happen will definitely result in more people coming. There is no question in my mind that that will happen. So I wanted the Prime Minister to reassure me that the other members of the EU were aware of their responsibilities, and we gave the frontline countries like Greece and Turkey and Italy, even though Turkey is not part of the EU, they are still a part of NATO, so they need to be kept on board as well.
You mentioned Turkey. This morning, Dennis Skinner, one of veterans, Labour MPs, he asked a very valid question, and that was that if we are determined to go to Syria, and then we should fight alongside Turkish, so alongside Turks, and the Turks, they are bombarding their own people, and they are buying oil from ISIS. So is that fair to you?
Well, that is his analysis.
What they are doing, the Turks, they are buying oil from ISIS, and they are killing Kurds as well. That's why the Kurds, they're against Turkish government, aren't they?
Well, if they are doing this, then they should stop. because I don't think anyone should be involved.
But they are doing it, so how could we prevent them from stopping?
I don't know that they're doing it. You're telling me, and you're quoting Dennis Skinner with the greatest of respect. That is not what the Prime Minister said, and I think that he is best placed to be able to tell us what is happening.
And you said that David Cameron, who was very compelling in his statement, unlike your own leader, Jeremy Corbyn, he didn't express his views over this issue, he just asked him questions. So is it because that the opinions are very divided within your party, so that's why he didn't want to?
Well, I don't accept
that.
I don't accept that criticism of Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn has been very clear on where he stands on a number of issues, and he's always taken the view that intervention is wrong. So he comes from a very principled position, and there's nothing wrong with him asking the Prime Minister's questions. That's what a statement is all about. The Prime Minister gets up and you then ask him a series of questions, you don't make a speech. I think Jeremy did very well today. I happen to think, I'll tell you my politics. My politics is, you don't stand back when people are being killed. You don't stand back when there is genocide. When I was Minister for Europe, Tony Blair sent in air power and troops to help those who were being massacred in Kosovo. He did the right thing. We have to intervene. The world cannot stand by while genocide is being committed. My only concern is we just don't do it for the wrong reasons. There is no oil for us in Syria as there was in Iraq. It is very important that we have principled reasons for doing
What
things.
about the arms supplies?
Well, I don't know who is supplying the arms to them, I'm afraid.
The British Army, the British government. And
No, I'm not sure the British government is giving arms to the Syrian regime.
To the rebels, they did it back in 2013.
Right.
And now that the opinions are divided within your party, so do you think that what's the position of your party? Because the Conservative position, we already know that they are in favour of this intervention in Syria. But what about your party?
Well, the party will make up its decision on Monday and make up its mind on Monday after we have a meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party. The shadow cabinet has met, they will meet again, we'll then have a meeting with parliamentary members and they will decide our position.
What about the political settlement? Because the Prime Minister wasn't very satisfying to make his case clear on the political settlement in Syria after the British intervention in Syria. What about the political settlement?
Well, we need a political settlement.
But what is it?
I don't know. At the end of the day, when we have completed our action here, we need a political settlement to the problem.
But we're just repeating our mistakes in Libya and Iraq, aren't we?
Well, Libya is a completely different situation.
But we didn't have a political settlement either, did we?
Well, we don't have one now. No, that's right.
And would you push the Prime Minister to make his case clear for a political settlement? Because some of your backbenchers, they ask him questions over this issue, and he just fudged their questions. So will you do something for this on this issue?
Well, I can't do anything because I'm not part of the negotiating process, but I hope our government will be able to do something. The Prime Minister made it very clear he wanted a political settlement. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to resolve these matters.
And as you are... Okay, last question. This is the last question. As you are also the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Andy Bannum, the Shadow Home Secretary, he said that there will be, last week, he said that there will be cuts in the police budget, but the Chancellor announced yesterday that there won't be any cuts in the budget. Was that a good news to you?
Well, yes, of course, because I think it's really important that we don't have these cuts in the police budget. I think it's really important that we allow matters to proceed in the way that we think is right. I mean, the issue of security is very important. So I'm pleased.
Okay, it was
All right.
a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.